Okay, so after some time taking some break off from this series, we're back onto another um video on knowing your football confederation. So yeah, for those of you who are new to this channel, I just started this new series on football confederations, especially with the World Cup coming up. I think last time I covered UEFA. This time we are looking at Conmebol, which is the South American Confederation. So yeah, let's get into it. So Conmebol is FIFA affiliated, which is why you'd have teams like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, um, Uruguay, and Bolivia and the rest coming into the World Cup. It is the oldest of all the confederations, especially those that are affiliated to FIFA. But strangely enough, it's one of the few confederations that actually just has 10 members, which is a very low number compared to UEFA and compared to CAF and AFC, which are the other two confederations which we will look at later on. So yeah, Conmebol is the South American Confederation. It's got teams like Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay, which have been former world champions. With um, Argentina being the current world champions for this one. Um, yeah, in terms of competitions structure. So yeah, despite the fact that England is known to be the country which established association football. It's highly regarded and it's often known by most most football historians out there that South America was the first confederation to actually come up with a competition for for confederation football, which is why you have the South American Football Championship coming up in 1916, which was also the year in which Conmebol was founded. Um, and also this competition went on to become the Copa America, which we know now today. So yeah, around at that time, Conmebol was also founded as well, and the president of Conmebol at the time was Hector Gomez or Hector Rivadavia Gomez, and obviously the confederation was founded in Uruguay around time just before the World Cup, the first World Cup actually. So in terms of rivalries, now, as I mentioned before, Argentina and Brazil have been the main rivalry which has existed in Conmebol. Both have been world champions. Both have been successful in terms of Copa Americas as well. And obviously, both nations have actually produced world class legends. Uh, with Argentina producing the likes of Mario Kempes, Maradona, Messi, Di Maria, Stefano, and obviously Brazil having Pele, Zico, Socrates, Rivellino, Garrincha, yeah, and the list goes on. Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, not the not CR7, Brazilian Ronaldo in this case. Yeah. So yeah, in terms of rivalries, there has been quite a lot in recent years and in past decades regarding Argentina and Brazil, and they have been intense. Like they have been really intense ones, especially during the 20th century. Future direction. So it is known that Conmebol and UEFA have this alliance where obviously European football and South American football has grown quite close in recent years, especially after the pandemic era where the Finalissimo came back into effect. So a lot of people actually don't know this, but the Finalissimo competition, which exists between South America and Europe, actually started back in I think the late 80s and late 1980s. But then obviously it got defunct for some time, and that's when we had the Confederations Cup coming in. But once FIFA took away the Confederations Cup, Europe and South America decided to bring back the Finalissimo. So we can expect this to continue going, especially with the next one coming up between Spain and Argentina. Spain being the current European champions and Argentina being the current South American champions. So we can expect the competition to grow and continue to exist. Um, so in terms of other competitions, which is organized by Conmebol, you have the Copa America, which I mentioned earlier on, between the nations of Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, Paraguay, um, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Suriname, Venezuela, yeah, and the list goes on. And you've also got the club competition in the form of the Copa Libertadores, um, which forms the basis of this flow chart here as well. So at the top you have Conmebol. On the national side you have the Copa America and the Finalissimo. And on the club side you have the Copa Libertadores, the Copa Sudamericana, which is basically like the South American equivalent to the Europa League. And you've got the Copa Sudamericana, which is also the South American equivalent to the UEFA Super Cup. So essentially, the winners of the Copa Libertadores and the Copa Sudamericana go on to play a final match in the Recopa, which then determines the overall champion of South American football. So currently, the president of football is Alejandro Dominguez. He's been in charge since 2016, which is also the same time as Gianni Infantino has been in charge of FIFA. Actually, the current headquarters of Conmebol is in Paraguay, specifically Luque Asuncion, Paraguay. And yeah, just a brief outline of the trophy in terms of South American football. You have the Copa America for the national teams. You have the Copa Libertadores for the club competitions, which is essentially it's basically the South American equivalent to the Champions League in Europe. Then you have the Copa Sudamericana, which is also the South American equivalent to the Europa League. South America currently does not have an equivalent to the Conference League, but on the women's game, you have the female version of the Copa America, and you have the female version of the Copa Libertadores as well. So similar to the UEFA Women's Champions League and the UEFA Women's Euro in Europe. Moving on to Copa America winners in terms of the men's list. So at the first Copa America, which used to be the South American Championships, which was played in 1916 and hosted by Argentina, you had Uruguay winning it. Then the next year, in 1917, you had Uruguay hosting, and they also winning it as hosts. Then in 1919, you had Brazil hosting it, and Brazil winning it. So basically, in the early years of the South American Championships between the different South American nations, the Copa America, or the South American Championships as it was known back then, was hosted on a yearly basis. So that changed later on. Obviously, in 1920, you had Chile hosting it, and Uruguay winning it again, becoming three-time champions. 1921, Argentina hosted it, and they finally won it on home soil. 1922, you had Brazil hosting it and winning it as hosts again. Then you had Uruguay hosting it again in 23 and winning it again on home soil. And they took that same energy to hosting it again in 1924 and winning it again back to back. Then in 1925 again, you had Argentina winning it on home soil. So basically, in the early years, you had this situation where the home field advantage actually played a role in countries winning the Copa America. In 1926, then you had Chile hosting it and Uruguay winning it again. Um, so you had this situation where Uruguay at the start of the 20th century were the dominant winners of the Copa America. In 1927, you had hosting it and Argentina bringing it back. In 29, you had Argentina hosting it again, and again they won in home soil. In 1935, you had Peru hosting the Copa America and Uruguay winning it. Then in 1937, Argentina again hosting it and winning it again as hosts. Then finally, you had a new champion in the form of Peru. So they hosted it in 1939, and they finally won it on that occasion. So this goes back to what I mentioned earlier on with regards to the fact that with the Copa America, the home field advantage has historically proven vital in the host nation winning it. In 1941, you had Chile hosting it again, but this time Argentina came to back. Then you got it hosted in Uruguay again in 1942, and again the home field advantage here with Uruguay winning it. Then, strangely enough, during the time of the Second World War and even the First World War, you had the Copa America being played throughout. Um, Here's a case where in 1945, which was the final year of the Second World War, you had Chile hosting it and Argentina winning it again. In 46, Argentina, they won it again back to back. And then you had a new country hosting it in the form of Ecuador in 47. And here's the case where Argentina actually won it 3 years in a row from 45, 46, and 47, which was remarkable for them. Then, obviously, after 1947, there was this change where Copa America wasn't played in 1948. So from 1949, that's when Conmebol decided to make the decision to host it once every um, 3 years, actually, 3 or 2 years. Um, so yeah, this is where the change comes in. So the Copa America was played in 1949 and not played in 1948. So when that happened, Brazil hosted it and they finally won it on home soil as well. I think they actually won it again on home soil. So they've done that 3 times already, previously, leading up to 1949. Then yeah, 53, you had Peru hosting it and Paraguay finally winning it on that one. 55, Chile, Argentina wins that one. 56, Uruguay, again with the home field advantage. And they won that one on home soil again. 57, you had Peru hosting it and Argentina winning it. So yeah, around this time you have the introduction of players like Pele and Garrincha coming in through the national teams of Brazil. And for Argentina, before that time, you had the likes of the Stefano coming in. So yeah, Argentina wins it again on home soil in 59. Then, strangely enough, Copa America was played twice in 1959 with Ecuador hosting it and Uruguay winning it on that one again. Um, then in 63, you had Bolivia finally hosting it and finally winning it on home soil. In 67, Uruguay hosting and Uruguay winning again. Then something strange happened in 1975 where no country actually hosted the Copa America. It was actually played in different places. Um, so essentially, you had home and away games, and out of that came Peru being the champions of that particular edition. And then the Copa America in 1979. Again, various countries hosted it, and Paraguay won that one. In '83, so yeah, you have this gap between 79 and 1983 where it wasn't actually played. So the reintroduction of the Copa America came again in 1983, and on that edition, Uruguay won that one in '87, which was the 4 year change. Um, Argentina hosted it, and again Uruguay winning back to back on that one. Then in '89, you had Brazil hosting it. This was the generation which had the likes of Zico and Socrates, and they won that one on home soil. Um, then in 1991, you had Chile hosting it, and Argentina won that one. Uh, so I do believe they won that one without Diego Maradona because there was this incident leading up to the 1991 Copa America where obviously Maradona actually got suspended for his drug um, use. In '93, you had Ecuador hosting it, and Argentina winning again back to back on that one. Then after the '94 World Cup, you had the '95 Copa America being hosted by Uruguay. Uruguay winning that one. Bolivia again hosted in '97, but this time Brazil won it. In '99, you had Paraguay hosting it, and Brazil won it again. This time with a generation that had the likes of Romario, Bebeto, a young Ronaldo Nazario. That's R9. Rivaldo and Dunga and yeah, a couple of others. Then in 2001, we finally come into the 21st century, where you had Colombia hosting it, and Colombia actually finally won it on home soil as the hosts. In 2004, you had Peru playing hosts and Brazil winning that one. This Brazil team had the generation of um, Ronaldinho, the full Roberto Carlos, more matured Ronaldo Nazario. That's out nine, and yeah, they won it again in 2007. This time it was hosted by Venezuela. So yeah, Brazil went back to back from 2004 to 2007 on that one. In 2011, Argentina hosted the Copa America, but it was won by Uruguay. So this is when Messi, the likes of Messi and Di Maria came into the fold, as well as the likes of Aguero. Then in 2015, you had the Copa America being played in Chile. If most of you would remember, Chile played Argentina in that final, and obviously that was the 100th anniversary celebration of the Copa America. Um, Actually, no, that was the one before that one. Um, so yeah, Chile won that one, and obviously in 2016 was the 100th anniversary of the Copa America, and that's when it was hosted in the USA, which was quite different compared to the previous hosts, because for the first time ever, a South American nation hosted it. Sorry, for the first time ever, a South American nation didn't host it. It was actually hosted in North America, and yeah, Chile went back to back on that one, and that was the final match between Chile and Argentina, and that's when Messi almost decided to retire from the Argentinian national team back then. Thankfully, he chose not to. So in 2019, Brazil hosted the Copa America and they won that one as well. Then came 2021, which was the first Copa America after the pandemic era. Again, Brazil hosted it, but this time Argentina finally won that one after almost close to 3 decades of not winning it. So yeah, Argentina won that one. Messi finally won his first Copa America in that edition. And then we have the more recent one, which just happened last year in 2024. Again, for the second time ever, the USA hosted the Copa America, and Argentina went back to back on that occasion again with Messi and Di Maria and a couple of other guys from the recent squad winning the second Copa America. So the next Copa America, which comes out in 2028, is yet to be determined in terms of who hosts it. And obviously, once we know that, and once the competition takes place and everything unfolds in terms of that, we will know who wins the Copa America for 2028 when that time comes. Okay, so in terms of World Cup winners coming out of Conmebol, obviously, um, as mentioned before, the three nations of Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay have been the most successful. But also, when it comes to Conmebol, they have been dominant, with Argentina leading in terms of having 16 championships, followed closely by Uruguay, which has 15, and Brazil having 9. And then you have Peru having 2 Copa America championships, followed by Chile. So both Peru, Chile, and Paraguay all have 2 championships. Then you have Colombia, which just has 1, and then Bolivia, which has 1 as well. So, yeah, moving on to landmark stadiums, regards to Conmebol. Obviously, in Argentina, you have the likes of the Bombonera or La Bombonera, which is located in the capital city, Buenos Aires. Then you also have the El Monumental, which is again located in Argentina. So yeah, the Estadio Monumental actually hosted the final and the opening game of the 1978 World Cup, which Argentina actually hosted. So La Bombonera is the home ground for Boca Juniors, and the Estadio Monumental is the home ground for River Plate. Both clubs are heavy rivals in terms of Argentinian football. Then in Uruguay, you have another one in the form of the Estadio Centenario, which actually was the stadium which hosted the first edition of the World Cup in 1930, which obviously saw the final between Argentina and Uruguay, with Argentina winning and becoming the first ever world champions of the World Cup. Then in Brazil, you have the Maracanã, which hosted the 1950 World Cup and the 2014 World Cup as well. Then you have in Brazil again the Stadio Nacional Mané Garrincha, which was named after Garrincha, uh, true legend of Brazilian football, who played in the 1958 World Cup, headlined the 1962 World Cup, and also played in the 1966 World Cup alongside the likes of Pele, Vavá, and Didi. And then in Brazil again, you have the stadium in Fortaleza, as well as the stadium in Salvador. And you have the stadium by Grêmio, which is the football club in Brazil, a very well-known football club in Brazil, and also the one by Corinthians, which is located in Sao Paulo. And also there is the iconic stadium by Brazil, which is named after the Amazon rainforest. And lastly, again, there's the one in Porto Alegre, which is quite iconic in terms of like its architectural structure. Okay, so as I mentioned before, South America has produced some heavy hitters in terms of like the World Cup and its history, with Brazil being the 5-time winners, being also the country with the most um, being the country to produce the most champion squads, followed closely by Argentina, with them being 3-time champions, and Uruguay being the last, having 2 world championships. So in total, that's a total of 10 world championships coming out of Conmebol. In terms of legends produced, you have Fernando Stefano from Argentina, He played for Real Madrid, so he's also a Real Madrid legend. And also, he aside from playing for Argentina, he also played for Colombia and for Spain. But he never actually played in the World Cup. He came very close to playing in the 1962 World Cup, but then he couldn't because of injury. Then obviously Pele, we know, um, due to his greatness and due to the fact that he transcended the sport. Pele being the only person to actually win 3 World Cups and being the first person to score 1,000 goals, 1,000 recognized goals by FIFA. Obviously, Pele played in the 1970 World Cup. He played in the 62 World Cup. He played in the 66 World Cup, and he played in the 58 World Cup, having won the 1958 World Cup, the 1962 World Cup, and the 1970 World Cup. Then for Peruvian fans who watch this, you have the likes of a legend like Teofilo Cubillas. Forgive me if I mispronounced the name on this one. Then you have the likes of Garincha. Again, a legend who's not often talked much about in terms of global football, but Brazilians in particular know who he is. Then you have Jairzinho, who was pivotal in the 1970 World Cup squad as well. And you've got Carlos Alberto as well, who also played in the 1970 World Cup squad for Brazil. Brazil in 1970 had a really good team, a dream team of really outstanding players. And yeah, you have Rivellino as well, who also played in the 1970 World Cup, the 1974 World Cup, and I believe the 1978 World Cup as well. Then you have the likes of Mario Kempes, who played in the 1978 World Cup and won the 1978 World Cup with Argentina. He also played in the 1982 World Cup as well. Then you have the likes of Zico, who was the main attraction for Brazilian football in the 1980s. Obviously, Brazil didn't win the World Cup in the 1982 edition and in the 1986 or the 1990 edition, but the likes of Zico really changed how football was perceived in the 80s. Um, then you have Daniel Passarella, who, aside from Kempers, was also a legend who played in the 1978 World Cup. He was actually the captain of the side of Argentina who won the 1978 World Cup. And he also played in the 82 edition of the World Cup as well. Then you have Socrates, who, funnily enough, was named after the philosopher. Here's a fun fact: Socrates was also a medical doctor, as well as a Brazilian football player. He played for Flamengo, Corinthians, and for Fiorentina in Italy as well. Then you have Claudio Caniggia, who played in Argentina during the 80s and the 90s. He played in the 1990 World Cup and the 1994 World Cup as well. Obviously, we all know who this is: Diego Maradona, famous for the hand of God, famous for the goal of the century at the 1986 World Cup. And obviously, Diego actually played in the 1982 World Cup as well and the 1990 World Cup and his last World Cup, which ended in a bit of a disappointment in the 1994 edition. Then back again to Brazil, you had Romario, who played in the 1994 World Cup and won it as well. Romario also played for Barcelona, and he was also played for Flamengo in Brazil, and a host of other clubs as well in Brazil. You have Bebeto, who also played alongside Romario. So during the 1994 World Cup, you had this really good partnership between Romario and Bebeto, which essentially helped Brazil win the World Cup back in 1994. Um, in 1998, you had the likes of guys like Gabriel Batistuta coming up. He was also pivotal for AS Roma in regards to AS Roma winning the first ever, well, not the first ever Scudetto, for the first ever Italian championship in the 20th century. Obviously, we know who this is. R9 with the famous haircut. Um, yeah, R9, Typhoon Pele, is one of the few players to have won 2 World Cups um, as a player. So yeah, even though Ronaldo didn't actually play pivotal role in Brazil's squad for the 1994 World Cup, he is still recognized for winning that as well. But the 2002 World Cup was where he really stood out in terms of what he could do. Leading up to that, he also was extraordinarily good after the 1998 World Cup. Unfortunately, he missed the final for that one, which eventually led to France winning the 1998 World Cup. Some people often speculate what happened leading up to the events of the 1998 World Cup final and what he could have done if he had actually played in that final. Then you have Cafu, who also played in the 2002 World Cup. Rivaldo, Roberto Carlos, again, legends of the game. And then you have Riquelme. Yeah, this is just a list, a comprehensive list of legends. There are more out there, um, such as Messi and the likes, which I should mention very soon. You have Kaká, Brazil, Aguero, Man City, and Argentina as well. Di Maria, we know what he's done in terms of the 2022 World Cup and also the 2014 and 2018 World Cups as well. For Chile, you have the likes of Arturo Vidal and Alexis Sanchez. For Uruguay, you have Edison Cavani, who also played for PSG. And you also have Aguero. You also have Diego Forlan, who played for Villarreal and also was the top goal scorer at the 2010 World Cup. Then you have Luis Suarez, who was a member of MSN. And then finally, as I mentioned before, you have Messi, who we already know who he is already. Um, and what he's done for Argentina and for Barcelona as well. In terms of managers produced, you have the likes of Cesar Luis Menotti, who was the manager who won the 1978 World Cup for Argentina, and who also went on to coach Barcelona in the 80s. Then you have Carlos Bilardo, who was the manager for Argentina squad that won the 1986 World Cup. And he also went on to coach, I believe it was Sevilla. Yeah, he went on to coach Sevilla in the 90s. Then you have Luis Felipe Scolari, who won the World Cup for Brazil in 2002 and was also the coach for them during the 2014 World Cup as well. Mario Zagallo, who remains till this day the only manager to win 4 World Cups. Um, so he won the 58 World Cup as a player. He won the 62 World Cup as a player as well. And he won the third one as an assistant coach for Brazil during the 1994 World Cup, and he won the his third World Cup, I believe, as a player during the 1966 World Cup. Then you have Bielsa, who is known for Leeds United, but he also comes from Argentina. And then you have Dunga, who played for Brazil during the 1994 World Cup and coached them during the 2010 World Cup. And a lot of people actually haven't forgiven Dunga for famously leaving out Ronaldinho from the 2010 World Cup squad. Then you have Lionel Scaloni, who is the current manager for Argentina, and he won the World Cup for Argentina in 2022. Then Atletico Madrid fans who know who this is, Diego Simeone, who is Argentinian as well. And Simeone also played as a player for Argentina and for Atletico Madrid. He played in the 1994 World Cup and the 1998 World Cup, and also the 2002 World Cup. Then obviously Maradona, who a lot of people know as a player, but few actually know him as a manager. Obviously, he famously coached Argentina at the 2010 World Cup, and he also went on to coach a couple of other teams too in South America and in Mexico. So finally, in terms of applying the 5 KCPs to what we've got here, in terms of Conmebol as a confederation, they do have a lot of history, being the first established confederation in football. And obviously, for a lot of the national teams and the clubs have been successful in terms of competition structure, in terms of trophies won. So they get 1 point. In terms of world class players produced and managers and legends produced, obviously based on the list which I mentioned, they have really contributed to football in that capacity, so they get another point. In terms of league structure, club structure, stadium infrastructure, yeah, they've produced really good stadiums which have hosted World Cups in the past. And in terms of league structure and club structures, South American football has traditionally been the second best to European football. Now, there was a time before that where they were the most established out of all the confederations. So, based on that, and based on league structure, and based on the competition structures as well, having competitions like the Copa America and the Copa Libertadores, they get another point because those are globally recognized competitions. Lastly, in terms of world football fame and reputation, yeah, as I mentioned before, the competition structures. A lot of people know about the Copa America, and obviously because of players like Messi and because of players like Aguero and Maradona and Pele and yeah, the long list of legends I just mentioned before. And in terms of plans and aspirations for development in the football world, now you often have the situation where a lot of South American players are well known for playing in Europe, due to this close alliance between European football and South American football. But we can expect that to continue to grow and establish, um, in terms of development. So they get another point for that. So in total, that adds up to 5 stars, which means, or which basically puts a stamp there to show that Conmebol is a strong football confederation in general. So yeah, if you're South American and you happen to watch this till the end, just know that if you plan on supporting any teams in the World Cup, you come from a strong confederation, and if you plan on actually playing for one of these national teams or playing for any team in South America in the future, you have a strong footing to get into club competition and international competition as well. So yeah, next up would be Africa and CAF. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.